Spoilers ahead. Watch out, and take care. The movie begins with a teacher asking students what they want to do after graduating high school. Their answers are very diverse. Some want to become artists, famous YouTubers, and so on, until a student Cal, whose grades are mediocre, says he wants to become a sport stacking pro. The teacher criticizes each of these answers and suggests choosing a traditional career, such as a doctor and lawyer. Later, Cal practices with his glasses and is approached by Jay, a classmate. The two start talking about their dreams and quickly become friends. Jay admires Cal's passion. Furthermore, she tells him she likes plants. Cal asks her about her dreams, and Jay says she wants to attain a college degree, after which she wants to be like a normal person. She wants to get married, have a family, and work 9 to 5. He tells her that her thoughts will change as soon as she finds her passion. In the end, Cal explains to her the rules of the sport stacking game, and the two grow closer. The film jumps to 2018 in Chicago, USA. A child emerges defeated from a sport stacking competition because he lost to Cal. But let's see how he came to win that competition. After graduation, Cal continued training in sports stacking and won several tournaments, holding a record of 6.145 seconds. But he doesn't want to stop there, and plans to set a world record, held by a child with a speed of 4.753 seconds. Jay admires his determination, and agrees to stand by him and support him. He works in his mother's restaurant, but since he cannot be distracted from training, Jay fills in for him so that he can concentrate on training. The girl does every job she can, and eventually, he sets a new record and is very happy. By now, they have to go to the next level, and Cal proposes to rent a house and split the expenses. Jay says she will find the money, while Cal plans to borrow money from his mother, and when he wins the tournament, he will pay her. She visits the house and thinks about it for a while, but when she reads his message that he is getting better, she decides to take the house. Inside the house is a children's room, which Cal decides to use as a training room since it is the quietest. He says that to be successful in this sport, you must have the ideal environment, fresh air, silence, and concentration. He trains all day, giving little attention to his girlfriend. Nevertheless, she understands and supports him anyway. One day, he finally breaks a new record. He set a time of 4.733 seconds, winning that 2018 tournament. One evening, he watches a news report announcing that an online sport stacking tournament will be held, so participants will have to film a video from home. The winner will get a 3-year contract, and make their own all over America. He is determined to win the tournament to go away with Jay to the States. He again spends all his days training, not giving enough attention to Jay, who takes care of all the chores. The girl is madly in love with him and continues to support him unconditionally. Nevertheless, Jay wants to build a family and have a baby, so she buys many toys and baby things. Her friend tells her that she is now 30 years old and needs to talk to Cal about this. To earn money, Cal gives private sport stacking classes. He claims that in this sport, it doesn't matter age or gender. A young girl calls him out and tells him she will put all her effort into beating him at the sport, and he becomes slightly nervous. His colleague at work tells him that a little boy broke his record, setting a record of 4.699 seconds. The Colombian boy Edward is only 10 years old and does nothing but practice during vacations, because he has nothing else to do. He gets faster with each passing day, and Cal realizes he is in a corner, because he only has 2 months to beat his record. When she comes home, Jay wants to talk to him about something important, but he is in too much of a hurry, and tells her that her record has been broken, and that he has to practice. For the next few days, Cal keeps trying and trying again to break the record, but he fails. At one point, he hears the sound of the water machine, and asks Jay to turn it off but gets no response. Then he notices that Jay has not changed his water bottles or ironed his clothes. Cal wants to call Jay, but he is afraid that this will disturb his concentration, so he decides to let it go. Jay visits her friend's house, and she reassures her that she can stay and live here. Jay sees through the security camera Cal wants to turn off the automatic water machine, but he struggles. Cal isn't used to doing anything on his own, and when he goes to buy a new water machine, he notices that there are many kinds, and he doesn't know what to choose, so he has to trust the seller blindly. These events affect his concentration, and he can no longer beat his own record. In addition, the girl who attends his private lessons keeps pestering him. Cal meets Jay and asks her what brand of water machine is best to buy. Also, he asks her why she left him. Irritated, Jay tells him that all he does is play all day, while she has to solve problems, pay bills, and do housework. She tells him she can't go back to him and has to fend for himself. Cal goes back to school, where he finds a girl named Metal, who he hires as a cleaner. He takes Metal home and shows her the problem with the water machine. She listens carefully and soon discovers that the problem is due to a leaky faucet, not the whole system. Amazed, he hires her as his household helper. He receives a call from an unknown number. He answers and discovers that Edward, the Colombian boy, broke his record. Cal promises him that he will meet and beat him, even though he is his fan. Meanwhile, Jay goes to a clinic to check fertility and discovers that she can still have children. Metal makes Cal's breakfast, and he says it tastes better than Jay's food. She tells him that he should hire a driver and an English teacher. He does so, and this way, he can save more time and concentrate more on training. One day he drinks a glass of cow's milk and then wakes up in the hospital, because it turns out he is allergic to it, but he doesn't know it. Jay comes to see him, and Cal asks her why she didn't tell him that he is allergic, but the girl says she always told him, but he didn't listen. Jay encourages him by telling him that he will go to the US for 3 years while she will stay in Thailand, and their paths will part because they have different goals in life. She promises to help him one last time, explaining to him what needs to be done to live independently. She teaches him first how to choose the right milk for him, how to pick up the hair left in the shower, wash clothes, change the bed sheet, and fry eggs. She discovers that the plants she was watering have died and begins to cry. Cal feels guilty and promises to take care of them. Later that evening, Jay gives Cal all the important phone numbers to save. Then she puts a bandage on his back for the pain, and tells him he cannot do everything completely on his own. She wants to sell the house and asks him to sign to give his permission, but he won't. He says he wants to help, so he will give up sport stacking and give her what she dreams of, a family. Jay says he can't just give up like this because he has been training for 10 years for this tournament. She wants to see him win, go to the States, and forget her. Impressed, he burns the paper, but she expected this ending, and shows him that she has his papers, and will be able to sell the house anyway. Afterwards, the two consult with their friends and receive different answers. Jay's friend thinks that if Cal doesn't want to sell the house, it means he loves her, while Cal's friend says that if she wants to sell the house, it is because she loves him. Jay posts an ad with the house for sale online and shows it to an interesting couple. But when they see it, a sheet says not for sale. Jay says to ignore it and invites them to see it. When she tries to enter, she notices that Cal has changed the lock on the house's front door. In the meantime, Cal continues to train but still cannot break the Colombian boy's record. He is ready to quit, but his friend tells him to continue. Then it turns out that she has bet a sum of money on him, and if he does not win, she will lose the money. He says he will train at home and leaves. When he arrives in front of the house, he realizes that Jay has changed the locks. So, he goes back to live with his mother and says he will help her with the chores. She asks him to accompany her to a place of worship for a ceremony. Irritated because he cannot practice, Cal does it anyway. His mother starts to do the stairs, and Cal notices that she is having difficulty, so he decides to help her instead of practicing. He asks why she didn't tell him about the pain in her leg, and she says she didn't want to bother him. Also, Jay used to help her with things, but now he doesn't return her phone calls. He realizes that he was neglecting many things while training. Cal takes her mother home in the evenings, after which she starts scrolling through Jay's Facebook page. The girl often uploads posts about babies and pregnancy, and Cal realizes what she needs. The next day Cal finds a little boy having difficulty with his homework, and decides to help him. The boy thanks him, and says he reminds him of his father, who always helped him with his homework. The next day Cal calls Jay and tells her that he wants to help her sell the house and realizes his mistake. Cal arrives and tries to describe the house to an interesting couple, but an awkward speech comes out, and Metal helps him. Cal realizes he will have to buy a house for himself, and returns to practice so he can win the tournament. Meanwhile, Jay is looking for a new home and visiting different places to find the perfect house. During private lessons, a young girl shows a film of herself where she breaks the world record, and scores a time of 3.876 seconds. Cal realizes that surely the girl gets enough sleep and food, lives in a cool environment, and is not distracted by romance and drama. He asks her why she is not participating in the tournament, but the girl says she doesn't care. He asks her if she can teach him to be as fast as she is, and the girl agrees. It is 15 days before the tournament closes, and the girl helps him practice, but they are distracted by Metal screaming after being frightened by a snake. Metal tells him to ignore it and go back to practice, but he decides to help her and calls for help. At that point, Cal's friend and his mother also arrive to support him. Cal realizes that now he must win not only for himself, but also for those who support him. Cal and the little girl go back to training, while Metal tries to take care of the house. Suddenly the lights go out, and Cal realizes that he has not paid the electricity, so he goes alone to pay the bills. When he finally gets home, Jay calls him to remind him to pay certain fees to the bank. Metal calls the driver and the English teacher who come to help Cal. In the evening, the little girl reveals to Cal that when she recorded the video in which she scored 3,876 seconds, her parents were fighting in the living room because they wanted to divorce. The atmosphere became chaotic and noisy, so the stress drove her to break the record. Cal believes that he can use the stress to his advantage and break the record. Soon after, the couple interested in the house calls him, and they say they want to buy it in about a week, just enough time for the tournament to end. So, Cal has a few more days to practice. With time on the line, and thanks to the stress, Cal breaks every record and becomes the top-ranked player. On the last day of the tournament, the Colombian boy again breaks the record by only 2 thousandths, but he avoids uploading the video, and Cal wins the tournament. The next day, Cal goes to meet the buyers of the house, but they are told that someone else bought it before them. The couple leaves angry, and Cal tells Jay that he will buy the house for himself with the money he has won. Cal and Jay still don't get back together, but remain on good terms. Meanwhile, in Colombia, the little boy who could have won the championship tells his mother that he avoided posting the video because he wants to stay with her. Cal packs his suitcase to go to the States. The end. Thank you for watching. Subscribe if you'd like to see more videos like this. Turn on the notifications, and leave a like to help the channel out.